Hi guys, what's up? I'm Christina from Sermondo. Welcome to Sermondo Talks. Today's video is going to be all about sourcing. Sourcing is one of the most crucial steps when trying to sell a product successfully on Amazon. There are lots of companies out there offering their help with sourcing services. Today we're going to speak about one of them, Noviland. And for that reason, I will interview Francois Jaffres, who's business development manager at Noviland. He will tell us something about the people behind the company, what kind of services and platform they offer, and what they can do to help you. Let's say hi to Francois.
As Christina said, yeah, I'm Francois at Noviland. I run business development primarily in marketing, but I've been with the company since the inception, since we had only 3 people. So it's definitely fun seeing it grow. And then in regards to Noviland, of course, we handle sourcing and purchasing from over 3,000 factories currently in China, and it's been such a fun ride, really being able to service all these different companies.
Can you tell me what's the main benefit of Noviland? Like, what differentiates you from competitors, if you have any competitors, of course?
Sure. No, I mean, we recognize, of course, that there are a lot of options out there. And then in regards to tech-based sourcing companies, we do have a key differentiator where we're able to service just about any sized company. And we actually started out with wholesalers and distributors, established retailers, developers, hotel owners. We're able to really find this niche in building materials. And from there, about 4 years ago, we were able to grow this technology where we were able to release the beta about a little bit over a year ago and then release it to the general public about mid last year. And so what this technology does is it really breaks down all of their RFQs, and then it selects the best suited factories. So it's not just, a sourcing agent, let's say, that's an easy comparison to us, that they take your request and then they'll start contacting factories on Alibaba or, AliExpress or 1688. We actually have a technology that breaks down the RFQ and pulls it apart, and we'll match them to that best suited factory. From there, we do have the human element where we do, start contacting the factories, getting the best prices for them. And it's all based on, whatever they're looking for.
So you have both, like you have the human element, but also technology.
Right. And the technology is really probably the most important part. So the platform that we're able to build is very user-friendly on the front end. And the back end, I think that's really why we're able to service so many small to medium-sized businesses, and we're able to run on this freemium model. It's really because we're able to communicate as a team and set certain tasks throughout the entire sourcing process, because we're very well versed and experienced in sourcing. But without the technology, it's just not scalable. That's why you'll see sourcing agencies typically be relatively small. Sometimes they're one-man shows. But that comes with an extremely high labor cost, right? Because if you're spending all your time trying to do all these different tasks, then you could only service certain companies.
Sure.
Or you have to charge, the $1,500 up front, or have a minimum order value of, $10,000, stuff like that.
What's the typical Amazon seller that is using your site? Is this more like those smaller private label brands, or also super big companies? Like, what's your typical client type?
And this is actually what gets me so excited about it. So we actually started working with Amazon sellers about a year ago. So before that, we were working with wholesalers, as I said, distributors, hotel owners, apartment builders. And then when we released the technology, we found that we could actually service just about any sized company. And then Amazon sellers are perfect for that, because we have clients that are doing, let's say under $1,000 in an order, even under 2,000 is probably where most of them start out. So about 1,500 to 2,000 range, maybe 500 units. And then we also have the sellers that are doing upwards of 5 to 10 million in sales on Amazon. And we see that we're able to service those smaller guys, especially the ones that are just starting out in private label, because our technology lets us be efficient on the back end. And that's really the key to it. And we love that we're able to help these businesses really build, and it's great working with them along the way. That's probably the most fulfilling part of my job. Seeing a brand just build from, one product to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and just chatting with them throughout the day. It's great. I literally have chills right now thinking about it.
Oh yeah, this was actually one of my next questions, like what do you like most about your business? But I guess you answered that already.
Yeah, no, seeing the businesses grow, I think is number one. And seeing a lot of the wholesalers that we worked with, seeing them be very appreciative of a large part of the workload and a large part of the risk be mitigated through our company, because they no longer have to deal with 10 suppliers. Now they could just work with us for all 10 different products. Then we could combine the shipping for them. And then in terms of the risk, working with a US based company, of course, is a lot different than working with someone based out of China. It's really, really, really hard to enforce those international contracts. And it's been so many times where I hear a lot of our users come to us and just mention that their supplier ghosted them, or their trade agent just stopped replying via email or WeChat. And we're like, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's no way to run a company, right?
Yeah.
So I think the most fulfilling part is knowing that we're actually benefiting these companies.
Okay, and how did you get sought in the Amazon industry? Was it like you were sitting around like, okay, we can also help small companies. Maybe we should start with Amazon private label sellers, or do you know anyone selling on Amazon, or did one of you sell on Amazon yourself?
Yeah, so we actually don't sell on Amazon ourselves. None of us have ever sold on Amazon ourselves. It was, believe it or not, a referral from one of our smaller retailers that they had a friend that was selling on Amazon, and they brought them onto our platform because it was free to use when we launched. It's still free to use, and they were able to just see how much easier it is than going onto these marketplaces. And from there, it just kind of started spreading throughout the community, where now we're able to reach out and do a little bit more marketing in it. But it's not really something that we expected to get into. It's not something that we were really targeting with our marketing about a year ago. It just kind of started spreading, and I'd love to be part of the Facebook groups now. I love to chime in on the different. I know I see you there too.
I was gonna say, I see you commenting all the time, like engaging like crazy.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love to be able to spread more knowledge, because at the end of the day, if these businesses could start growing, it's great overall. It's very fulfilling to see.
So I see you're very happy at Noviland.
Oh yeah.
Which brings me to my next question. What was your best and what was your worst moment at Noviland so far?
So I think the best is when we started hiring more in China, because we do have an office in Hangzhou. And when we started hiring here, because I got to see that a lot of the processes that we implemented, a lot of the customers that we had, were just too much for a few people to handle. And knowing that we're going to be able to bring that to more companies was definitely probably the most fulfilling part of this job. Not to mention, I got to bring on one of my good friends from school, and he works with us now. So, so that was exciting, being able to employ one of your buddies. But in terms of the worst, I don't know. I mean, the startup culture, I'm sure it has its ups, has its downs, but I mean, I don't think there's a worst moment, I would really say, in Noviland.
That's also a great answer. I mean, that's how it should be, right?
Right.
Let's hope it stays like this.
Yeah, no, I hope it does. I'm sure we'll still have some downs. I mean, with any startup, there's always those moments where, you wish you might have done something differently, or you think in hindsight, those might be the worst moments, but you learn from them and you work to improve them. So very appreciative to be given this opportunity to be here.
Okay, so the next question I'm gonna ask might be a bit weird.
Okay.
You can also take a moment to think about it. If you could hire a famous person in the world to work for Noviland, to be your colleague, who would that be and why?
If I can hire a famous person to work at Noviland and be a colleague, you stumped me. Now, now the first name that popped into my head. Now, I don't know if I would want them to be a colleague. I would want them to challenge me. I would want them to challenge every single thing I did if they had time for it. And I think that would be Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you've ever heard his shows or podcasts, but God, he's thrilling. He has so many ideas, and it's just like if you could challenge every single thing I did, and if I was able to have kind of that competition mindset, I guess, within my job itself, just like a little bird chirping over your shoulder, just telling you, do you really want to do that? Are you messing up? I think that would help drive me even more and help me grow.
Great answer. I love him. I follow him on every channel. Like Gary Vee is the first person to shout at me every morning from my Instagram channel. So
I love it. Yeah, no, it's usually like the last thing I'll watch during the day, and I'll leave it on when I'm getting ready for work in the morning. So no, I feel you on that. Gary Vee is definitely an inspiration.
What would you say, who influences Noviland with its vision, or also like who did it back then? Like who influenced where the company is now most? Like family, friends, your team itself?
I mean, every day we kind of come with this mindset of, okay, what can we do to improve? And we always brainstorm. And the first thing that we start brainstorming with is, okay, what are some of the issues that our users are having? So we get a lot of our inspiration from just feedback. What pain points are you getting into? Are you, especially with Amazon, are you experiencing, a lot of competition that are giving you false reviews or marking your item used, sold as new? Just so many different issues that maybe we're not directly able to fix because we're a sourcing and purchasing company, but we're able to talk through with them. And we're able to say, okay, hey, we could recommend this company, or hey, go check out Sermondo.com, and you could definitely find whatever you need there. So a lot of it's user driven. Being in the startup, you really have to keep an ear to the ground and recognize when something needs to be changed and when there's an opportunity to grow with your users.
Okay, then I will finish this off with a famous last question. Can you name 3 tips that you would give to any Amazon seller out there?
3 tips to any Amazon seller. Can I do it specifically for private label sellers?
Sure.
Okay. Because we have the arbitrage sellers, but we can't help them too much. So private label sellers, 3 tips. One is definitely do more research about your products before selling them. So in regards to who your competition is, what the actual price is, thinking 3 steps ahead to where, okay, what if I get it shipped to the West Coast? And then what's the price difference if I have to get it shipped to the East Coast? Because Amazon's infamous for splitting up the orders to different warehouses. So doing more research on the products and just really trying to have a longer plan. Second tip would be definitely developing a long-term pricing strategy. Because what we see is, especially with the rise of Amazon private label sellers and those that are just starting out, is they'll go onto these marketplaces like Alibaba and see, I could get 500 units for $1 is what they think, because that's what is displayed. Realistically, a manufacturer probably isn't, a real factory at least, isn't able to produce those for $1 because the manufacturing cost of, the changeover, the labor, the raw material, MOQ that they have. There's several reasons that they're not able to do that. So think of, okay, if I need to start out at 500 units, what's the price there? Am I going to be losing money? Do I have to break even for the next 6 months? Okay, but what if I got it at 1,000 units? And then what if I get 5,000 units? And that's really kind of, I guess, going with tip one, but thinking ahead where, okay, now what if I get to 10,000 units? And that's not going to, be sustainable to put into an FBA warehouse. So what's the next step? Can I check out, 3PL and try to do some warehousing with them? Or is it cheaper storage fees there? So it's developing a long-term pricing strategy and thinking 5 steps ahead instead of saying I need 500 units at $1.50, because realistically it's probably not going to happen.
No.
And then the third step.
Use Noviland.
Yeah, definitely use Noviland. That should be a given, but no, when you're talking to suppliers, and this is more of a general tip, I think, for anyone that's sourcing overseas. When you're talking to suppliers, spend a little bit more time vetting them. We have clients that have been scammed thousands of dollars because they didn't properly vet their manufacturers, or they didn't vet the trade agents, even didn't vet, the freight forwarding company that's promising a 20-day lead time and super cheap. So definitely be wary of those. And just one more tip is do not try to haggle with them to the point where they're going to break, because that's when you're going to be experiencing those ghosting scenarios. That's when they're going to start compromising quality to be able to get to your price point. It's a very traditional culture for them to say yes to just about anything that you need, because realistically, yes. Can they make that? Can they get it to $1 instead of $1.50? Yes. But I'm going to be cutting corners. I'm going to be reducing the quality assurance throughout manufacturing, which is different than QC. I'm not going to be using the best material, or I'm going to be thinning out, the thickness of it. There's so many things that they can do to reduce the price that they might just not be telling you up front. So just don't push them to the breaking point. They have to make money at the end of the day too.
Yeah, sure.
So if that 5% or 10% really means that much, then maybe you're looking at the wrong product to sell. Maybe that market is just too competitive, or maybe you're looking at the wrong factory in the wrong part of China too.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything you want to get out before we finish off this interview?
No, I want to thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it. It's been nothing but a pleasure of working with you and Tobias, and speaking to you guys and brainstorming back and forth. And I think what you guys are doing is wonderful. I've already been able to recommend Sermondo to so many of our users where, they're trying to ease their processes and find, a virtual assistant, let's say, or they're looking for marketing agencies. And I just say, hey, you know what? I don't have too many at the top of my head right now, but if you check out Sermondo, you'll definitely be well taken care of. And we've gotten some feedback already where they were able to find them pretty quickly and of course help grow their sales, and makes us happy. Again, it's seeing them grow is the most important part.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and the interview with Francois, and if you want to find out more about Noviland, just click the link that we put in the description. Have a wonderful week. See you soon.